If you look at Ubisoft's stock right now, this is what you'll find. This big upward swing before a big collapse. And you can see right here that Ubisoft's stock price is currently sitting at $4.39 as of January 11th, 2023, which is the worst it's been since, like 2015 or 2016? Either way, the last time we saw the stock price peak was back in 2021, and since then, it's just been downhill, and a number of factors contributed to that, from all of the controversy surrounding Ubisoft's awful work environment that was rife with harassment, abuse, misconduct, and discrimination, to just their general mishandling of projects that have gotten delayed or canceled or shipped in a less than ideal state, or finished projects that, shipped well enough, I guess, but ultimately, we're just kind of stale. And this latest stock price dip today happened after Ubisoft's latest investors call, where Ubisoft updated investors about the current state of the company, and the picture is looking pretty bleak, judging by the latest headline right here, which reads, Ubisoft has canceled 3 unannounced games and delayed Skull and Bones yet again. Ubisoft has already been struggling with a consistent schedule of high-quality releases. The cancellation of 3 unannounced games, all of the money, time, and manpower wasted into that's not going to help matters. And the company admitted during the investors call that it's facing major challenges as the industry continues to shift towards mega brands and long-lasting titles that can reach players across the globe, across platforms and business models. I love how they can never admit that the quality of their games just aren't where they should be. Instead, they put the focus on buzzwords like mega brands, and right here they're essentially describing live services. And something else they admitted is that their recent launches have not performed as well as expected. 2 specific titles that they outlined are Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Just Dance 2023. They were hoping that they would sell well over the holidays, but software sales over the key holiday season had been markedly and surprisingly slower than expected. Now, it's a damn shame about the Mario + Rabbids sequel, because the original game actually sold pretty well. 10 million plus unique players played it on the Nintendo Switch, which are really good numbers. Apparently, the sequel just didn't match those numbers. And I'm curious as to what the exact numbers are for the Mario + Rabbids sequels, if it's a case of the game genuinely underselling, or if Ubisoft's setting the expectations unreasonably high, as corporations tend to do. As for Just Dance 2023, this is like an annual release thing. It's like, how many of those can you release before people just kind of get tired of having to buy one every year? Now, a game release that was supposed to help mull things over financially was Skull and Bones, but this has been delayed yet again following a series of previous delays. It'll now arrive early in Ubisoft's next fiscal year, 2023 to 2024, which runs from April to March 2024. That is April 2023 to March 2024. That's a pretty big window, so we don't really know when the game's going to launch. On that front, the company had this to say: the additional time has already paid off and brought impressive improvements to Skull and Bones quality, which has been confirmed by recent playtests. Players will be positively surprised by the game's evolution. I have zero hope at this point that Skull and Bones will be good. Don't get me wrong, it's great when a game gets delayed to improve its quality, but it's abundantly clear that with Skull and Bones, it's completely directionless and it's in development hell. And the only reason it hasn't been canceled is because they made a deal with the Singapore government, so they're obligated to ship this game. So I don't foresee this being a passion project. It's very much a project that's being made out of necessity. And with just what a rough ride this has all been, I'd be shocked if this turned out to be a good game. As for what Ubisoft's schedule of releases looks like, well, during its 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, we're apparently going to see the launch of Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and other yet-to-be-announced premium games, including one large one, as well as promising free-to-play titles for some of our biggest brands, yay. And this is assuming that these projects don't get delayed, which, who knows what'll happen at this point. Skull and Bones in particular is a sticking point worth calling out because it is a game whose development began back in 2013. It's been a decade now since the game began development, and it was delayed for a 5th time back in September 28th, 2022, making this latest delay the 6th time that the title has been pushed back. And I'll remind you again, Ubisoft is still making Skull and Bones because a deal with the Singapore government won't let it die. I also want to spotlight other mishandled projects like the Prince of Persia remake, whose likes to dislikes ratio looks something like this, because the game just does not look good. Look at these character models, among other details that make it look more like a low-budget fan project rather than a proper AAA remake that stands alongside all the other amazing remakes we've seen in recent years. There's so much uncertainty surrounding the state of this project that the development team has had to remind people time and again that the project is not getting canceled, reassure people that it's still in the works, that progress is being made, so on and so forth. Not canceled, but delayed. Again, this is one of those projects that feels like it's in something of a development hell. Most recently, they once again reaffirmed that Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake is not canceled, but they also canceled everyone's pre-orders for the game, which I don't know what that means. That seems like a pretty ominous omen. Oh, and also let me remind you that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in early development. This is an article from November 30th, 2022. This is a fairly recent article. The game, despite how much time has passed since development for it began and since it was announced, it's still nowhere close to being done. It actually beat Duke Nukem Forever's record back in October of 2022 for longest development period for a video game. And we're still going to have to wait a few years longer at best if the game doesn't get delayed yet again, or if it doesn't get canceled in the end. Now, here's a part that gets my blood boiling. Yves Guillemot, as CEOs do, took no accountability whatsoever. Here's what Ethan Gatch reported as summarized in the following tweet, which reads, "After a terrible 2022, Ubisoft's Yves Guillemot tells staff the next year is crucial, telling them in an email that the ball is in your court to deliver on time and on budget. Today, more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success," said Yves Guillemot. Harry Potter and the audacity of this man. The audacity to insinuate that people need to work harder for the company to succeed instead of finding better leadership. Yves and Ubisoft's leadership steer the ship into an iceberg, and they dare insinuate to staff that the ship is sinking because the staff isn't working hard enough and they need to work harder to bring the ship back to life. Well, how about getting a captain who doesn't steer ships into icebergs? Have you thought of that one? Ethan Gatch's article on Kotaku highlights the full quote. This is the quote that was sent to staff after the rather grim investors' call, which highlighted the piss-poor state of Ubisoft. "Today, more than ever," said Yves Guillemot, "I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success. I'm also taking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible." Scrolling further down, the article highlights that Guillemot laid responsibility for this at the feet of staff, writing, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we're capable of achieving." As for how dire the current situation is, well, the company is apparently projecting a roughly $537 million loss for the fiscal year ending in March 2023, which is certainly going to make a dent. To try to mitigate the damage, the company is planning to slice roughly $215 million in costs from its operating budget over the next 2 years, and this is what the company told investors. This will be achieved through targeted restructuring, divesting some non-core assets, and usual natural attrition. Ubisoft will continue to look at hiring highly talented people for its biggest brands and live services. And unsurprisingly, workers will be made to pay for the mistakes and blunders of leadership. 3 current and former Ubisoft developers told Kotaku that they are already seeing cuts by way of fewer backfills for recently departed colleagues and fewer contracts getting renewed for those working on a temporary basis. They also said there were layoffs across some of Ubisoft's U.S. locations last fall, including its San Francisco office. A spokesperson for Ubisoft said only 27 positions were eliminated as part of this quote-unquote restructuring. Just a really awful look across the board. Looking at Ubisoft's history this past year or two, we're looking at a situation where Ubisoft has now canceled at least 7 games in the last 6 months. Alongside that, the company faced a reckoning because of its toxic work environment that CEO Yves Guillemot and Ubisoft's leadership have still not addressed properly, and that's on top of the fact that throughout 2022, there were reports of Ubisoft's bad luck streak continuing with delays, cancellations, and cost-cutting. Ladies and gentlemen, Ubisoft is not okay, and this has little to do with staff not working hard enough. This has everything to do with misguided leadership that does not know how to take accountability, that dodges accountability like Logan Paul. I don't know what the future holds for Ubisoft, whether they can recover from this or not, but it's starting to feel like new leadership is long overdue. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current situation with Ubisoft and what you think the future holds for the company. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.